Pikmin. I really like this game. The very idea of crash landing on an unknown planet and enlisting the help of the local adorable creatures to put your ship back together before your life support runs out is just such a fun setup. I don't have a lot of experience with real-time strategy games. Pikmin is pretty much my go-to on that front, and it's the unique scenario and visuals it offers that make it so appealing. First entries of entirely new franchises are often host to a lot of unpolished qualities, but with that considered, Pikmin holds up pretty well to this day. Granted, it is rough in places, but it's impressive how enjoyable it still is to play, and its distinct atmosphere has yet to be topped for a lot of fans of this series. In this video, I'm going to lay out what I found to be the best and the worst aspects of this game. Please be aware that this review is based on the Wii version of Pikmin with enhanced Wiimote control. Be warned that full spoilers for Pikmin are on the table. The best. Number 1, Pikmin. Where else to start but the amazingly lovable little faces of the franchise, the Pikmin. Talk about instantly iconic creature design. Simple, well-balanced, and insanely charming. There's a good reason Pikmin are as recognized as they are, considering how small this series is. Their cute expressions and curious personalities make them effortless to fall in love with, which is the perfect trait for a game where you want to keep these things alive. Mass deaths can be devastating because of this, and even an individual Pikmin getting killed is a depressing moment. They're just so easy to care about. I care so much I beat the entire game ensuring every single one made it out alive, with plenty of resets along the way. But it was worth it. It's really rewarding to make it to the end of the adventure without any deaths. All 3 Pikmin types have their own well-considered abilities and traits, so each of them are useful in an easy-to-understand way. They add so much to the tone and identity of these games. I'd say they alone are responsible for this series still being relevant today. Pikmin are a 10 out of 10 idea that's characteristically Nintendo and pure genius. Number 2, the concept. Like I mentioned before, the creativity and novelty of this game's simple setup is just so immediately captivating. Presented in such an authentic way, you're easily drawn into Olimar's predicament. You actually feel stranded on this alien planet, and the primary objective of finding your ship parts before time's up paints a clear goal with obvious stakes. Because of this, repairing your ship is immensely satisfying, with a constant sense of progression since you visually see it come back together. It's the perfect pairing of what you're doing in a game with your character's motivations. It's a straightforward concept that really works, and thankfully, not the only thing holding this game up. Number 3, fun gameplay. Real-time strategy games are especially fulfilling when you manage your resources effectively. Multitasking really pays off, and setting up complex plans ahead of time can lead to remarkable levels of productivity. This leads to a very replayable game, since you can always find faster ways to get parts, overcome obstacles, or defeat enemies without losing Pikmin. Starting a day over, you'll likely see a major improvement with time management and Pikmin survival. It almost always goes better than it did previously. It's an addicting format that's a ton of fun to keep improving at, and the convenient continue from the last save button on the menu really encourages giving it another go if it could have gone better. Every little accomplishment feels satisfying. Tearing down a wall or building a bridge, you're always making progress in some way that feels productive. Getting a handle on the controls and Pikmin behavior can have a steep learning curve, leading to a frustrating experience. But there's a nice sense of growth and getting better by sticking with the game. Worth calling out challenge mode, which is a nice side attraction, and another thing you can spend a lot of time playing and improving at. Number 4, immersion and atmosphere. Considering Olimar's tiny size in this gigantic land, the world of Pikmin is familiar yet alien. It captures a nice balance of relatable, natural environments with strange, unpredictable forms of life. This is a fascinating place to discover firsthand. You never know what you'll find, the peculiar quirks of different creatures, or how how Pikmin will respond to something. The innate way you figure these things out really places you in Olimar's perspective. You're in his shoes and just as lost as he is. Locations have a misty, whimsical feeling, and pleasantly fitting music tracks, a few of which are quite soothing, while others express trouble on the horizon or the disorientation of feeling lost. There's a thick sense of mystery throughout the whole experience, and the constant presence of a time limit offers a unique blend of emotions, those of magic and wonder, but also pressure and dread. Topping it all off are Olimar's thoughts and adventure logs, where he'll muse over discoveries, plot a new course, or even just miss his family. These help add to Pikmin's unique tone. Feeling lost and alone isn't a style a lot of games go for. It's an effective, lasting identity, so it's no surprise it leaves such a strong impression. Number 5, new play control improvements. Applying enhanced Wiimote control to Pikmin is an exceptional pairing, making it quicker, smoother, and easier to play. Distance for tossing Pikmin has been greatly increased, and the precision a pointer affords works so well it feels like the game was made for it. Free and empowering, it's the perfect way to play Pikmin and a complete improvement over the GameCube controls. This new version has a few other quality of life additions worth mentioning. Yellow Pikmin no longer drop their bombs if whistled after being tossed, which is a smart decision as it was far too easy to accidentally set them off before. Pikmin won't run back to Olimar after taking down pellet posies now, which is nice since they'll just carry the pellet back automatically. The onion Pikmin are carrying things to is also now clearly conveyed in colored numbers over the object. These are just some of the nice adjustments made in this version, but there is one unfortunate change that's a real bummer. Bulborbs don't make their original cries anymore, instead only releasing high-pitched squeaks, losing a lot of personality in the process. Apparently their sound clips were unintentionally sped up, an unfortunate happenstance for the Wii version. Granted, this version certainly has enough improvements to be far superior to the original, but it's always a shame when something is botched in what would otherwise be the definitive version of the game. In any case, that's the bulk of the best qualities of the original Pikmin. Like I said, it's great that this game's still so fun today, but its messy, unpolished qualities are undeniable. These can be hard to ignore after playing later entries in the series, but are they enough to make this game better off avoided? Let's find out. The worst. Number 1, Pikmin pathing and AI. Considering when this came out, it's not surprising that Pikmin have complications when it comes to their pathing and AI. These issues are mostly cleaned up in the more current Pikmin titles, so going back to this game, they can easily wear on unprepared players. Pathing is one of the biggest hurdles, particularly when you have a large group of Pikmin. Little consideration was given for tight entrances and pathways, so Pikmin easily get caught on things, walls being a good example, and instead of finding their way around or funneling in when passing through, they'll often get stuck, stay stuck, and ultimately empty out of your group, likely being lost by the end of the day. Passing up ramps is sloppy since Pikmin will just flood over the sides, leading to a similar outcome. It's pretty tiresome. This stuff can happen freely and without notice. If even a single Pikmin is lagging behind and you turn a corner, there's a good chance they're getting stuck. Beyond all of this, Pikmin priorities aren't as user-friendly as preferred. 2 Pikmin will destroy their own pellet posies, only to carry the same pellet back instead of grabbing their own. You end up having to babysit them a good deal, and it slows down management to constantly make sure they're doing what you want. Pikmin also have no qualms with carrying things through dangerous areas, even when there's plenty of space to go around. They're content to unnecessarily drag things right through sleeping enemies, and there's often little way of knowing which path they'll take ahead of time. As annoying as all these things are, they have nothing on number 2, tripping. Pikmin randomly trip. This tends to happen when they're grouped up and is a massive contributor to accidental deaths. They'll easily get picked off by enemies or become lost entirely if it happens at a bad moment. Unless you wait for a tripped Pikmin to catch up, they'll almost definitely fall behind and empty out of the group, becoming lost by the end of the day. In a game where time management is king, tripping can have have a tremendous effect on how a day plays out, and happens way too frequently. I counted 4 Pikmin tripping in about 10 seconds one time. It's a straight up poor design choice that only adds inconsistency to the game. And outside of only using small groups of Pikmin, the player can't do anything about it. Number 3, cheap enemy design. While I love the visual design of these enemies, when it comes to battling them, more often than not, it's a frustrating time. A lot of common enemies are difficult to approach without putting Pikmin heavily at risk, to the point where they're not even worth fighting. Even swarming with a huge group feels like a coin toss on whether you'll make it through without any losses. Wollywogs in particular are devastating, with only a single unfortunate jump able to kill huge amounts of Pikmin in an instant. And since holding them to the ground is random, it's difficult to fight these things safely. Water Dumples, Sheargrub, and the infamous Shearwigs are by far the worst enemies on offer. These things kill Pikmin almost instantly if they come anywhere close, and even if swarmed to death, they'll take a second to kill a captured Pikmin before dying, which just feels dirty. There aren't a lot of consistent strategies for defeating enemies without losing Pikmin. Spamming punches with Olimar or slowly damaging something with Bomb Rocks becomes the only safe, reliable way to really deal with a lot of enemies. But these are tedious procedures. There just aren't a lot of enemies you can fight fairly with confidence, and I think swarming should be a lot more effective than it is. There's a lack of polish to enemy design overall, and the game would benefit from less risky, more reliable strategies. Number 4, mystery deaths. If you're going for a deathless run, this is the worst aspect of the game, bar none. While swarming large enemies like Bulborbs, Wollywogs, or even the one-off Puffstool, sometimes after they die, you'll notice the Pikmin count decrease even if the enemy never attacked. Some sort of glitch exists where if an enemy dies while Pikmin are somewhat below them, the Pikmin will just kind of phase out of existence, counting as a death. It's pretty unnatural when they die this way, and clearly not intended. This is a huge issue though. There's basically no way to prevent these deaths if you swarm kill enemies. You just have to hope none of them die. But it happens so often, it's entirely unreliable as a strategy. This is a real shame, as swarm killing would otherwise be the best way to deal with a lot of enemy types. These mystery deaths combined with the cheap enemy design does a lot to harm the combat of this game. You're really discouraged from battling with Pikmin and fighting anything you don't have to, and it's just unfortunate. Also, ideally there'd be some way to check deaths that happened during the day in the menu, as, like I said, they're not always well expressed. Number 5, a few more things. I'm just gonna list these off. I'm not a big fan of Bomb Rocks. They're clunky and just not very fun to use. You can only throw one at a time at enemies, so it's a slow process to take things down with them. And Pikmin also won't throw them while on the move. Pikmin lose their flowering a little too easily when tossed around in this one. It's a hassle to constantly keep giving them nectar, and they're painfully slow without a full blossom. Emperor Bulblax is all that's left, the final boss of this game, and a pretty unfun fight all things considered. Timing the yellow Pikmin to toss Bomb Rocks into his mouth is easily frustrating, since they don't always react to his presence. They'll just stand there or take too long setting up the shot, often getting eaten because of it. The timing requires a fair amount of precision, and could be a lot more generous. But that about covers it. I really appreciate that this series exists. Pikmin showcases a special creativity that leaves a great impression. I wouldn't say this is an easy game to get into, especially if you're unfamiliar with this kind of playstyle. And if you're not a fan of being timed or any kind of constant pressure like that, this can be a miserable experience. The first Pikmin has enough rough spots to turn off even fans of the more recent entries. But for me, and anyone else with the patience for it, this is a shining example of an instantly classic new franchise, and one I'm always excited to revisit. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked my video, subscribe and check out my Patreon. I'll see you next time.